So the next part that we have to look at is exchange rates, converting one currency to another. And with exchange rates also comes with the idea of a strong currency and a weak currency. So before we get to the ideas of strong currency and weak currency, I'm just going to give you a nice tip that I do with the maths literacy learners. Okay, so when we do an exchange rate question, I always have to give you the exchange rate. I'm never going to expect you to know the exchange rates because they literally change every day. So currently, and I'm going to look it up quickly, the exchange rate, I'm just going to keep pound and bullet. Okay, so I just looked up the current exchange rates right now in this afternoon, and I find that one British sterling pound equals 23 Rand and 57 cents. One US dollar equals 19 Rand and 5 cents. And then I was also interested to find out what the pound to dollar exchange rate was. So 1 pound equals $1.24. So as you can see, we need to have these factors. I need to give you this exchange rate before I can ask you any kinds of questions. Now, the first main question would be to convert a certain amount from, let's say, rands to pounds, or a certain amount of dollars to rands, or pounds to dollars. So that would always be my first question, is to convert. Now, it can be quite tricky because which one do I divide, which one do I times? So what I do with my maths literacy kids is that I make sure that they know that one of the ratios, either the left or the right, must be a 1 unit. Okay, so I'm going to do it here at the bottom. So if I have 1 pound equals 23 Rand and 57 cents, I have the pound as the 1 unit. Now if I want to convert from the pound to my rands, so pound to the rands, I will multiply. So if I give you 3,000 pounds and I want you to convert it to rands, you'll say 3,000 times 23 Rand 57. However, if I give you 20,000 Rand and I want you to convert it to pounds, then I will divide. Then I will say 20,000 Rand divided by 23,57, and that gives me pounds. But the only way that this works is if one of them is in the 1 ratio. Okay, so 1 of something equals whatever of something else. Then if I have pounds and I want the something else, I will multiply. And if I have rands but I want pounds, using the same factor, I will divide. So I'm just going to write 2 examples there so that we can see that it works. Okay, convert 3,000 pounds to rands. Now, if we think about it logically, we know that pounds is worth more than rands, okay? We're going to get a whole lot more. So we mathematically expect for the number to get bigger, and the only way it's going to get bigger is if I multiply. So for every 1 pound, it's going to be 23 Rand 57. So for 3,000 pounds, it's going to be 70,000 Rand and 710. But like I said, I can also go backwards and I can say convert 20,000 Rand to pounds. Okay, 20,000 Rand to pounds. So now I'm going to expect my money to be a lot less in pounds because I know pounds is worth more. So I'm going to take my 20,000 Rand and divide it by the 23 Rand 57. Please note that I've used exactly the same exchange rate here. I haven't gone and divided anything or times anything or converted it. I'm still using the 23 Rand 57. And again, it only works if it is presented to you in this form. So doing that calculation, 20,000 Rand, which is a lot of money to us, is only 848 pounds. 848 0.54 pounds. Sorry, I don't have the pounds symbol, so that's why I'm writing the words pounds out. And you can do that with dollar, and you can do that with dollar to pound as well. It doesn't matter what the exchange rates or currencies are, as long as it's one unit of one and you multiply it to get to another unit of the other. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to look at what happens when I make the one unit the rand, not the pound. Okay, so let me just move this up. So in this case, we had 1 pound equals so many rands. But I want to know what happens when I have 1 rand. How many pounds is that going to be? So the first thing, if I want to convert exactly from what's here, well, how am I going to get 1 rand? If I had 23 rand 57, well, to get 1, I would divide by 23 rand 57. So 23 rand 57 divided by 23 rand 57 will be 1 rand. Okay, so if I divided my right-hand side by 23 rand 57, I need to divide the left-hand side by 1 rand 27. So 1 pound divided by 23.57 is going to give me 0.042. And you'll see with currency that they often have more than just the 2 decimal places because of these exchanges. Okay, so don't freak out, but when you give that final answer must be to 2 decimal places. So now let's see if this still works, if we can still use this little trick that I've done before. So if I want to go from pounds to rands, am I still going to multiply, or am I looking at going from the 1 unit forwards as a multiplication? So we always look at the 1 unit, and I like to put it on the left, and the non-1 unit, so in this case the decimals, I'm going to put it on the right. And by doing that, I can still use my trick, where if I've got rands and I want pounds, I will times. So I'm going from 1 unit to the other, it is times. And if I'm going from the unit to the 1 unit, it is divide. So let's see if we're going to get the same values if I have changed my exchange rate, or at least changed the subject of my exchange rate. So I still want to convert this, so I'm going to copy and paste these things. Okay, so I still want to convert 3,000 pounds to rands, okay? So now I have pounds, I want rands, so I am now dividing by 0.042. So once again, I'm working from the 1 unit. 1 unit to the other is times, the other to the 1 unit is divide. So if I have the pounds and I want rands in this case, I have to divide. So because I've cut off by rounding, it's not going to be exactly the same. I get 71,428,57. And that extra 1,000 rand is purely because of those decimals that I cut off, okay? But you can see that it's in the same region, so it definitely works. So remember to make it 1 unit of something equals the other unit. If you're going from the 1 unit, it is times. If you're going to the 1 unit, it is divide. Let's check. Let's check with our rands over here. So I have rands, I want pounds, so now I intend to times. And if I have 20,000 rand and I'm going to times by 0.042, I'm now going to get 840. So I've lost 8 rand there. And that's again, or 8 pounds. And that's again because of my rounding off. So what resulted in the change of operations? Well, it was the change in my currency. But now I'm going to ask you another one. what happens if I give you something that is not 1 unit equals another unit? So let's say let's use the fact that 1 pound equals 23 Rand 57, $1. Okay, never mind. Don't worry about that. So as you can see, I can change my currency of pound and rand so that the rand is the 1 unit. How did I do that? Well, to get 23,57 to only 1, I have to divide by that amount, and I divided it, the 1 pound, by that amount as well. So the questions that come with exchange rates, these are all the basic ones. It has also got to do with, a lot of them has got to do with petrol and oil and sometimes inflation, so you would use compound interest. So it's a lot of just logical thinking. The one thing that I do want to consider is the following. Very often, like I said, they'll throw in some oil questions or the cost of a product 10 years ago compared to what it is now. So that is when we start looking at the interest changes, okay? So just remember, not the interest changes, the percentage changes. So remember, we can always throw in some percentage calculations as well. So what I also want to consider is what is a weak currency and what is a strong currency. So we can only determine that when we are comparing two currencies, okay? So if we compare two currencies, for instance here, so back to this over here, when we compare a pound to a rand, we intuitively know people always talk about the pound being so strong, okay? But how do we know that from what we are looking at here? And remember, I'm only comparing the pound to the rand. So the pound to the rand here is very strong. The pound is strong, the rand is weak. But the rand's got a much higher number compared to just 1 pound. So don't get confused with thinking just because the number is high that that currency is strong. It's actually the exact opposite. So if I have very little of a pound and it gives me a lot of the rand, it means that the pound is strong and the rand is weak. Let's look at here. If I compare dollars to rands, I can see that only $1 gives me 19 rand. So in this case, where I'm comparing dollar to rands, my dollar is the strong currency and my rand is the weak currency. Okay? But now let's look at my pound and dollar. They're not so far off. Okay? So here we can immediately see that even though the pound is stronger, because only 1 pound gives me a little bit more in dollars, they are still both pretty strong. So the one that's got the smallest value is the strongest currency, and the one that's got the biggest value is the weakest currency. But now let's look at this. That makes no sense now. How is it that a very small value, we just said small values mean strong currencies. Well, that's still true here because 0,042 is smaller than 1 rand. So the 0,042, the smaller amount, is my stronger currency, whereas the bigger amount, even though it's only 1 rand here, is my weaker currency. And you can tell how strong or how weak it is by what that difference is. So here we had 1 pound equals quite a few rands, so the pound is much stronger. Or if we're doing it in this version here, 1 rand is a very little pound, so that number's quite small. So the pound is quite strong. So it also depends, the numbers also tell me how strong or how weak it is. Now the very tricky part is when it comes to the things like when you listen to the news and they say that the rand strengthened against the pound. Now, if you think of strengthened in terms of money, normally you would think something would increase. But that's actually not true because the smaller the value, the stronger it is. So when we talk about something strengthening, let me just get my text box back. It means now that, for instance,